Karis had grown to become an independent woman with a reputation for being a generous, giving person. Her name itself was from Welsh culture, and the name Karis meant grace and kindness. But this year, she couldn't help but feeling a void over Christmas spirit. Inflation was eating away at her sense of security. Her social life was slowly shrinking away. She was falling into sometimes feeling like a person losing their ability to have something worth giving to someone else. Karis grew up in rural America. Her roots as a person were always close to the earth. When her parents passed, as an only child, she inherited their small farm. But with that inheritance came the large debt that most small independent farms have to carry on their back to survive these days. She auctioned all the farm equipment and sold the land, except a small portion near the road and near the now dilapidated, non-working barn. After paying off those debts, she was left with very little. But her clerical job at a farmer's co-op, it was just enough to buy a tiny home and live a simple but happy life. It was enough for her to get by on, at least before the pandemic and before inflation. Over Kara's morning coffee, the future sometimes looked as dim as the dark roast she was drinking. To make the morning worse, she was lamenting the loss of yet another favorite earring. For all of Karis's good personal traits, she was also a habitual jewelry loser. She had a jewelry box with an impressive selection of single earrings. Her worst loss, though, was a pendant. It happened a few weeks ago. It was a special Christmas gift from her grandmother, and she'd worn it every Christmas since. The pendant was called the Seal of the Seven Archangels. Always the perfect thing to wear for Christmas, as so many Christmas traditions and stories involve angels. Angels are always all over Christmas, but not this year. Like so many other things that seem to be missing this season, Karen's Archangel's pendant was lost. The other things lost were a number of friends forced to move into larger towns or cities in order to find work. Lost was buying the groceries list completely. She had started to cut back, and the coffee she was drinking was getting just as expensive as all the other food items. Lost was her ability to join friends at fun places to go, because going anywhere cost quite a bit extra for gas. Lost was her holiday tradition of gifting to a local charity, while she felt as if she could soon become a charity case herself. But it seemed not everyone was struggling the same economically. Looking out her window, sipping the expensive coffee slowly, she recalled the news stories of the corporate hawks reporting record profits. And as coincidence would have it, while she thought of the corporate hawk story, a real hawk flew into view. It was hunting to take resources away from the local lowly crows. She knew those crows would be pissed off, loudly yelling crow obscenities at the hawk while it stole from their territory. Same story, different day. The hawk would steal, the crows would complain. But this day was turning out different. The crows weren't going to take this hawk today. The crows gathered and flew into fighting mode to harass that hawk away. Taking turns at attacks, they pursued the hawk as it tried to outmaneuver all of their advances. The crows were scoring a lot of good points, dive bombs, side swipes, hit and runs. But for all of the athletics that the crows showed, the hawk still had superior agility. There was one crow that didn't dodge quick enough, and the hawk struck. The strike connected with near lethal force. The crow went down. It was falling fast, but the crow regained some control as it attempted landing into a tree crown. Then Karis caught a glimpse of black tumbling to earth from out of those branches. The crow had missed its landing mark, and it couldn't recover its flight. Karis quickly put on a coat, slipped on some shoes, and walked out to the last spot she saw of movement. And there it lay under the tree, a mess of black feathers being tossed about by the cold winter wind. She saw an eye open, then close. The injured crow was still alive. She scooped it up in her gloved hands and carried it into that dilapidated barn. At least it was out of the harsh winter wind. Karis collected a small bed of old hay and gently laid the crow to rest there. In the quiet of that shelter, she could make out shallow breathing. She placed a shallow container of water alongside the crow and went back into her home to gather her thoughts. Then, when she returned to the barn, she expected to see a deceased crow. To her surprise, it was sitting upright, not standing, but at least upright, eyes open. It appeared dazed, but recovering. It appeared to sense her presence as she softly spoke to it. Karis said, "Should we be friends? You'll need a name, and since it's Christmas season, I'll call you Navidad." That's the perfect name. She took another shallow container and filled it with what she thought might pass for some crow food, a light serving of mashed fruits and some finely crushed walnuts. Then Karis softly, kindly wished Navidad a restful night. The following morning, Karis woke excited to see how Navidad fared through the night and went straight out into the barn before doing anything else. Navidad was nowhere in sight. Karis saw the food was half-eaten, and there were splashes of water at the side of the water dish. Navidad had apparently recovered well enough to eat, drink, and be on its way. Flying out of that old barn would have been easy through one of the few broken doors. Karis would miss her new friend, but was overjoyed at the crow's recovery. She decided to celebrate over a new cup of hot coffee. Back inside her home, it wasn't long before Karis was at her table by the window, gazing out with a hot coffee in hand, sipping slowly and happily replaying the recovery of Navidad in her mind. It was a happy distraction from the holiday void she was feeling earlier. From the window, a black flash from the corner of her eye caught her attention. A crow flew up into a nearby tree and roosted there for a moment. It carried something shiny in its beak. Karen recalled hearing of an old legend that crows were attracted to shiny objects. And then it took flight again and seemed to fly right toward her window. It dropped the shiny object just before picking up altitude and flying away over her roof. She could see the small shiny object laying on the ground. Well, curious and barefoot, she stepped out fast over the frozen earth to get a quick look, and laying there was her missing, prized pendant, the seal of 7 archangels. The necklace on it was gone, but the pendant by itself was amazingly laying there, waiting to be picked up and held in her familiar hands. From that moment, Karen's holiday spirit had a comeback, but it's important to note it wasn't the pendant itself that caused the feeling of void to transform into fulfillment. It was Karen's entire experience with Navidad that set that stage. It was Karen's kindness that helped save Navidad's life that day. Navidad certainly would have perished if left out in the frigid winter weather. And in turn, Navidad saved Karen's Christmas spark with an act of kindness in return. The final warming in Karen's Christmas spirit came when she stepped back into her home holding her angelic pendant warmly in her hand, while through her earbuds softly played a song in the background. It was a song with lyrics that were the ultimate light bulb moment for Karen's Christmas spirit. Karen softly mouthed the lyrics from a song sung by Jewel, a song titled Hands. Poverty stole your golden shoes, but it didn't steal your laughter. And heartache came to visit me, but I knew it wasn't ever after. And in the end, only kindness mattered.